Hey y'all, if you're watching, it's a familiar face, but in a second here, you obviously recognize the voice as OJ Spivey, friend of the show, writer over at the Philly Tribune, credentialed Eagles, Sixers, everything writer. OJ, tell the people a little bit more about yourself.
Well, again, thanks for having me, Matt. And again, I'm OJ Spivey, writer for the Tribune. I've been in media, sports media, media in general for about 15 years now, doing things here and there, starting out podcasting in those days, internet radio. Then I spent time at WRD Radio here in Philadelphia, hosted a sports show for 4 years. Also did some writing with The Undefeated, which is now Ansky, ESPN's sports racing culture website, and now with the Philadelphia Tribune. So just been in this thing for a little while, and thanks for having me.
And for the people who aren't watching, like I said, OJ is sporting the new Eagles logo flavor. So you said this is kind of growing on you a little bit.
Yeah, it has, and like we talked earlier, I kind of picked it up at training camp because they just had the hats there, and I don't even think they had shirts or anything, but they were just kind of having the hats. I was there training camp covering the team for the Tribune, and I just happened to bring my daughter there for one of the camps and everything. Got her a bucket hat with the Eagles logo and everything, and then I said, okay, this thing with the E here, I wasn't gonna get the whole logo, kind of like what Jalen Hurts has been wearing, but I said, okay, this kind of looks kind of cool. So I said, let me just wear this in my spare time, when I'm not covering a team. What do you say? No cheering in the press box. So, but I took the time to wear it with you, man.
If the Eagles keep playing how they're playing right now, you're not gonna have any concerns about logos. So that's been my point of view the whole time. Obviously, with any change, people hate change, but people hate
Absolutely.
Things how they are too.
Anything in life here, people hate change, and once I saw it in the end zone and everything, this kind of looks kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
When they first introduced the logo, I believe it was back in June, it kind of looked a little weird. Of course, everybody's reluctant to change. My first thought was, okay, maybe they should put Philadelphia in smaller letters on top of the word mark.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was kind of cool in the end zone, at least.
Really simple. They're going with a more simple look there. So
right.
So have you been able to get out much today outside and take a walk and see people around the city? What's the buzz like?
Not really, but just only in social circles, and I mean everybody's on the Jalen Hurts train now, which is kind of surprising. But when you look at his performance over these 3 games, and I tallied it up on Twitter for everybody to see his 3-game totals and average and everything. How can you not be on the train? And it's kind of funny because people are doing a 180 on him now, and they're just on board. And we talked before. You had me on here last time, and I predicted some things of not only Jalen Hurts playing well, but this team playing well, and he being the focal point of the Eagles' success so far.
You did.
And that's come to
said that.
fruition. I'm not trying to be smug about it or anything like that. A little bit
Yes.
wants me to be that way, because we just heard so much
Yes.
negativity, not only from last year. Well, you can kind of start from part of the season. Of course, that Tampa Bay playoff game was, the dark cloud over Jalen Hurts and his team, and people making the determination he's not the guy, and people not believing what they saw in training camp, and people not even actually telling the truth from what was seen in training camp, and even from the first couple of weeks. And you've seen me post and talk about, and even my lengthy Eagles preview that I wrote in the Tribune. 3 articles there about the team itself, Jalen Hurts, Hassan Reddick, giving a local flavor, being the Camden, New Jersey kid, coming home finally. So, I tried to interpret everything that I saw in training camp and those previews, and seeing Jalen Hurts go through the progressions, getting the ball out quick, going through his first, second, third reads, looking off the safeties, everything that you saw, not so much in the Detroit game, but Monday night against Minnesota, um, last Sunday against um, Washington,
Yep.
and you saw that this is the fruition. This is the maturity. This is the growth that you see in Jalen Hurts. And from all people talk about that, they had that funny word, intangibles and
Yep.
everything. This is kind of what we're seeing in evolution. I think that word's kind of going away, by the way. If I hear that one more time, it's kind of like hearing the word woke in politics. But it's got on my nerves for the most part. But everything that you see with Jalen Hurts in these three regular season games, you saw him work on in training camp. And I want to be clear on that because not everyone has been clear on that.
Mm.
He has done the work day in and day out at camp. And then you're seeing it now translate to the field.
Well, was there, and you got to see this firsthand. Obviously, I was a much young. I wasn't even a young man at that time. I was a kid. I got to watch him. I was a, you know, little guy with a little five jersey. But when McNabb really took the helm of the Eagles, was there this kind of feeling, or does this feel different from that?
There's some similarities there. There's actually a great question, Matt. But there's some similarities there, and similarities both with the head coach and Nick Sirianni and Andy Reid, McNabb. Only difference is, Sirianni didn't come in with Jalen Hurts. He's a little bit after, but it's very similar. And as far as the growth, I don't think McNabb needed because McNabb was he was the second pick in the draft that
Yeah.
year, so he was highly touted. I think he was I want to say more experienced because these guys kind of stayed in college. Well, he and Hurst stayed in college at the same time, but
Right.
I just think McNabb probably played more of a even though it was more of an option at Syracuse. I think he was more
Pro
NFL ready at the
style.
time. Yeah,
Okay.
not even pro style, but he was more NFL ready,
Okay.
physically, mentally. I think he had more consistent coaching. That's for sure. So, but yeah, I just think he was just groomed. And quarterbacks were groomed differently back then too. So. Even though McNabb's first year and a half was kind of helter skelter, he came in kind of, like half the season and everything, trying to figure it out. So there are some similarities there. Only difference is that I just think McNabb was just more NFL ready at the time.
So the Eagles are now 3-0 for the first time since 2016.
Hmm.
You're not I Somebody can cosign, I cosign. Go back, everybody who listening to this show. You should definitely listen to the previous shows with OJ. They all been fantastic, and he has been consistent in this, even going back as far as 6 months, several months, and saying that Jalen Hurts was going to play how he's playing now, or that he would expect it. Wouldn't be shocked to see it. Um, what has shocked you so far, though, OJ?
About Hurts or the team overall?
The team.
Okay. Well, I will add about Hurts. Only thing that I didn't anticipate is he being possibly a perennial 300-yard passer. That's one of the things that I didn't anticipate. Even I, because I've been in his corner as much, probably as much and more than anybody who has been in his corner. But the 300-yard passing, and then not only that, but him he almost surpassing that in the first half. So they kind of take their foot off the gas and everything in the second half. But overall with the team, just how proficient they've been so early. And again, that just goes back to the work that they've done in training camp. And not only Hurts himself, the offensive line, the receivers. These guys work hard, man. They work very very hard, and not only just seeing the drills, the team, not I won't say the team drills, but the 11 on 11s, the 7 on 7s, but the individual drills that these guys have worked on And there's been a lot said about the tackling on defense and everything. I'm not tackling during training camp. We'll get to that in a second, but I mean the offense and everything. It's just coming together. You kind of worry about it all coming together so early, and
Yeah.
then trying to sustain it. And that's just splitting hairs at that
Yeah.
point. But I mean it's pretty much running on all cylinders. I mean, they
It's
couldn't even
it's
run.
like the it's like the other main concern right now you hear is that the Eagles aren't handling their second half double digit leads correctly. It's like at some
Yeah,
point, I
but
mean,
that's part of the nuances of the game too. I mean, I made mention of it, during the Washington game, that they had to clean up some things in the second half and just try to score more, at least
yeah,
another touchdown. But those are nuances of the game. Defense just try to do different things, and you kind of play with a lead differently sometimes. I get it. Um, you might have wanted to see that more with Washington, but Washington's a decent defense.
yep.
Minnesota was too. They could have scored at least. Eagles could have scored at least 3 points in a Minnesota game. That kick was blocked. That changed a little momentum and all. But you know, I'm not too worried about that. You want
No.
to see it. We just want to see a perfect game all the time, and that's just simply not possible in most weeks.
No, and yeah, really the I'm not really going to complain about Gannon. I usually do complain about Gannon playing that really off coverage. I'm okay with him doing that in that situation, the way that those guys were dominating. You're basically just trying to wait the clock out. The only real concern I had was that uh, when they got the safety that down there, they were backed all the way up. I don't think it was the right call to try to pound it out of there like that. I feel like you make a
Yeah,
quick.
that was a crazy call, but football things happen. You kind of anticipated that coming. Hey, oh yeah, this didn't look good if they were going to run, and you want to be careful, but they were kind of like too careful. And another thing that surprised me is probably how well the back middle of the defense is playing. The linebackers, T.J. Edwards. I had some high hopes about Hassan Reddick, but you look at a guy like T.J. Edwards. He played well towards the end of last year, and also the safety position. You have Garner Johnson. Wasn't sure how well he was just going to fit in being a new guy. And also, there were question marks about Marcus Epps, and Marcus Epps is almost looking like a Pro Bowler back there.
Yes.
So he's caught not only in run defense, but especially in pass coverage. I mean, he's not really getting beat at all.
No.
You had some mishaps in the Detroit game, of course, but with Minnesota, Washington, and everything. I mean, he's been on the money.
My shock has been, and again, I all I can do is say what I've seen, what I'm seeing right now, and if something else happens by the next time I'm on here, I'm gonna tell you that it was different. Fletcher Cox has played really great, including on last Sunday. Is he having a career renaissance, or were the Commanders in particular just really poor last Sunday?
Well, I think both things can be true. The true sign of a pro, especially a seasoned pro, who's been in the league as long as Fletcher Cox is, you see a matchup, you want to exploit it. And of course, he has a lot to prove this year because, of course, Eagles cut him, brought him back, at a lower price. I know that's probably all calculated between
Hmm.
the team and his agent and all. But, he has a lot to prove as he's, spending his last couple years in the league and all, and he proved that he could still play. And does Washington have some issues on their offensive line? Yes, but what do you do? A good team takes advantage um, of a weak offensive line or offensive line that has problems, and the Eagles did just that. I mean, 9 sacks. Some teams will get 9 sacks in 2 or 3 games. So yeah, that was like a smorgasbord, and it helps that you have a statue back there in Carson Wentz. But yeah, they just took advantage, and you got to give them credit from as much maligned as his defense has been over the past year or so, along with Jonathan Gannon, which of course we spoke about before. you can't criticize them for just taking advantage of what was right in front of them.
Oh
I mean,
no.
it was raw meat, and
Yep.
they went after it.
Yes, they did. They absolutely did. Brandon Graham, you brought up the 9 sacks, which is 30% of what they got all of last season, by the way, which is crazy.
Exactly.
In 12 quarter and I think in four quarters they had 9 sacks. I think we had what 31 sacks last season or something like
Yeah, which is just dreadful. Right. Right.
just ridiculous. So main part of that again is another veteran, not Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. What about him? Is he having a renaissance? Is the new role where they let him be the situational kind of Chris Long of this team? Is what's making it happen?
I think this is a good role for him from the start, and I think they want to kind of bring him in slowly, coming back from his injury. And, he's not a spring chicken anymore. But I just think the fact that he's healthy, and they're keeping him fresh, and they're allowing him to rotate. And this is what the Eagles have always done. With their defensive lines, that's been just their franchise philosophy, not even from a coaching standpoint and everything. That comes from Howie Roseman on down. They love to be deep defensively and rotate those guys in. And that at this age and everything, it's the right thing to do. And probably as Brandon Graham gets some more shape, you'll probably see more snaps. But I think it's the perfect thing to do at this time, and he's taking advantage of it as well.
It is great to see. It was kind of, I think, for all there was so much anxiety, and for people who are not Philly fan, they kind of look at us in the way that we cheered to beat Carson, how we were so pent up. That chapter needed to close. I think now
I agree. Good point.
the
I agree.
city needed to close the book on that. He's gone. We didn't make the wrong choice. Jalen came in and whooped up on him, and then to see Fletcher and Brandon Graham multiple times bringing him down. Those, and even how all those guys were pros about it. Jalen Hurts going to shake his hand at midfield. You got Fletcher Cox before the game showing him love. Brandon Graham showing him love, but still, handling business down there. I think I think, and I said it before the game that it was a big deal. I stick by that. I thought it was going to be a
Mhm.
tougher game, but it was a big deal for that team. I think that's going to, the rest of the league may not take that win as seriously in a couple weeks. The Eagles, that is a signature win of this season.
Yeah, I believe so because they just went down there and dominated from the first series on, and the city, this fan base, we're sentimental, by nature, right? So when you talk about being sentimental, you look for closure, right? So just like any relationship, you want some closure. That's kind of going bad or had to end. You want some closure. So you described that perfectly, Matt. Just closing the book on Carson. Of course, he's going to come back. That's probably going to be the end all be all, and maybe it'll be some type of presentation or who knows. I don't know. I'm not big on those things, but and I know we'll talk about Jacksonville in a moment. I would rather so much see that for Doug
Yes.
than
Oh, yeah.
than Carson Wentz. But I know they'll do something because they're Eagles organization. They can be, although they can be petty on social media. I think they'll be classy about it, just as his former teammates were.
There- my thing is, if he keeps playing dumb football the way he was against us, which thank you, Carson. If anybody sends a clip of this or anything to you, thank you, I appreciate you. But that was some stupid football he was playing against us. Once again, holding the ball. You could see on the plays, Hassan Reddick just coming. Whenever Hassan Reddick ran by, he would keep his arm out there just in case Carson did something silly. If he keeps playing like that team might give up on him too. He might not even be the starting in week 8 or week 9 when he comes from Monday Night Football.
Man, it's almost like, okay, you know about this person that
Yes.
such and such dated Then,
Yep.
the other person dated and everything.
Yep.
And then, you think you're going to fix them. You think they're going to be different with you. But the same old thing happens. And,
And then you watch the
Clark,
same old behaviors, the little
right,
warning signs that they told
right.
you. They're like, it'll
Like
feel
I can
good
fix them, I
until
can
you
clean them
see
up.
this.
And yeah, right, exactly, exactly. But it's the same thing. You're going to get hurt again. You're going to get disappointed again. I mean, Wentz is what he is. I mean, listen, he'll forever be respected for what he did in 2017 because without him setting the tone, I believe they were what 11-1
Yes,
or something like that
11
at the
and 1.
time, right? Before he got hurt and
Yeah.
everything, if he didn't set the table like that, they're not going to the Super Bowl. So, forever grateful for that. But since then, I mean, since Jalen Hurts was drafted, it's going downhill from there. And this is what you have. He is what he is at this point, no matter what team he goes to.
So, and I was in the stadium. By the way, they got whooped like that in their home stadium. Uh,
If you
one of
want to
the,
call it a home.
it is awful. That place is. There could be a whole podcast of my thoughts on that stadium and all that
You
franchise.
should.
So we know that they're not going to be competition for the Eagles or either of these pitiful teams who've combined through almost 2.5 quarters here for 9 points. Do you think that the
Right.
Eagles will have any competition? Because we're talking about Monday Night Football here. We are recording during Monday night while the Giants, whoever the geniuses were that decided to put Cowboys and Giants, is what we got. Do you think that any of these teams that we're talking about will be any competition for the Eagles?
No, I don't think so. I think the Eagles have a great opportunity to try to win away with this division. I thought during the season that it would just be a two-team race, just the Eagles and Dallas, and that still could happen to a point. But I just think it's the Eagles' division to lose, and only thing that could probably stop them from winning this division is
Injury.
injuries. And I don't see them going on a bad losing streak or anything like that, or anything that'll threaten them from the NFC East. It's definitely their turn because I mean, I and here's the important thing. Um, I'm also impressed how this locker room has gelled over these past couple years.
Good point.
For
That's a good
one,
point.
they absolutely believe in Jalen Hurts. I saw that
Yes.
last year. It also trickled them back to second half of 2020. Even though it was a terrible season, these guys believed in Jalen Hurts from
They
the
did.
beginning. I mean, he exuded confidence, and that's 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 why Wentz is not here because these guys confided in him. And when I say McNabb was pro ready mentally, Jalen was always pro
Oh
ready.
yeah.
And you hear more and more stories. Some of that came out, this past week, getting ready for this Washington game. How more and more of that has come out. And I don't know if I explained this to you before, but this is just in everyday life. Like um, if you're in corporate America, you're in the military or something like that. You have those type of coworkers, you have those type of colleagues. When they walk in a room, they exude confidence. And on the other hand, if you have someone in there who is used to being in charge, used to being a leader, and they're the least bit insecure, that's going to rear its ugly head.
I'm well
And
aware of this.
yeah, and that's kind of what happened with that Eagles locker room.
Yep.
And kind of started when Jalen was drafted and all, but there are certain people in this world who exude that confidence, and Jalen has had that from the start. It's probably from where he was brought up, his parents, his dad being a coach, and I know people use that as a cliche, coach's kid and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, this is really cultivated in the Eagles locker room. You compare that with the veterans like your Jason Kelsey's, your Brandon Graham's, and everything. And when Malcolm Jenkins left, they kind of lost that a little bit, but I mean that leadership is back now. I mean, you even hear Brandon Graham and Jason Kelsey speaking sort of speaking Jalen Hurts' words,
Hmm.
leaving money on the table, not finishing in the second half, different things like that. That's coming right from the captain. That's coming right from the quarterback. So one of the captains, I should say, because they have several, but
But the
they're
quarterback is the captain. If the
he is
quarterback
the
has
leader.
the
Yes,
C, he's
you have
the captain.
captains, but he is the leader, right? You're correct. So I mean, if you hear 10, 12 year veterans, echoing this guy, what does that tell you?
Yeah. And I always and people can on this too, just check the tape. I've always been somebody who thought that the Eagles would be making a mistake to if giving Carson the money to that he wanted or that any quarterback would have wanted would have meant that the Eagles get off of their Super Bowl winning quarterback. I was always willing to let go of Carson Wentz. I always thought that it was striking the way everybody played better, played harder for the backup, whoever the
Mhm.
backup was. Like even when it was Jalen at first in 2020, I was kind of excited. It gave me something to watch because that was a dreadful season. Um,
Yeah, he at least gave you some excitement those last four games.
the players will tell you all you need to know just in their body language and everything and that transferred to Indy and it transferred in Washington. I mean, they were not that team was way more out of it when it was 17-0 than any team should ever really be when it's 17-0 was a little worrisome, but it's that it
It's
was
not an
flat.
insurmountable
Yes.
deficit in today's league. Yes,
They
especially if you
it
can
was just
throw the
flat.
football. Right, right.
It
Yeah,
was they
you
don't
you had
believe in him.
you had no doubt. People talk, we've talked about the Eagles not scoring in the second half. Eagles were never in danger of losing that game.
No.
Not even. You knew. It's kind of first series, but by the second series, you knew that. I mean, it was going to be a field day. Did you think of 9 sacks? But they had no, they were in no danger of losing that game.
So they don't have any competition in the East. Who's the top competition? Would you say at this moment, as of the end of Week 3, to be real competition to keep them out of the NFC Championship or from the Super Bowl?
I do think I still don't trust Green Bay at this point
No.
because I mean, as good as they can be, and they're probably going to win the division once again, even by default because Minnesota is inconsistent. The Bears are still trying to figure it out. Detroit as well. Detroit is just they're very competitive with Mr. Bite the kneecaps, but they always try to find a way to lose at the end.
Yep.
Um, and I think I do believe if Tampa Bay can get healthy, but they've just been decimated
Right.
so far. I believe if they were healthy, they would be the biggest competition. Probably throwing the Rams. I do think the Rams could try to figure it out later on, but it's tough for them to repeat. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket with the Rams. So
I'll just say
um,
this here. I'm gonna say this on September 26th of 2022. If the Eagles have to play the Rams in the playoffs, I am thrilled. I would love to play the Rams. I think that they try to outsmart themselves. They try to get way too cute. Matthew Stafford's going to be trying to throw those little no look passes for 4
yeah,
yards in the
Eagles have
backfield.
always over the time they've always matched up well with the Rams and Sean McVay. I think they're 2-1 against them over time. I mean, it goes back to the Doug Peterson days, but yeah, I think that's a good matchup. But I mean, it's still early. It's hard to project, but if you look at the Eagles' schedule,
Mm-hmm.
and I even thought within these first three games that Minnesota could probably be a tough game, but
Mm-hmm.
they crushed those guys. You want to see how they do. People are saying that Jacksonville is going to be a tough game. I think it can
They
be,
will be.
but I don't think it's a game where I would be necessarily worried about them losing. I mean, if these guys go 4-0, I mean, the sky's the limit because I believe they go to Arizona next. You can't trust them. You
No.
know, that's crazy building to play in.
And it's going to be
But
hell for Dallas to come to Philly. They're not coming. If the Eagles are 4-1, even if they lose to Arizona, they're 4-1. Dallas got to come to Philly, and Philly can really start running away with the
let me
East.
tell you, for the home opener, just heading to the press box, the energy at the link for that Minnesota game was just electric. So I can only imagine 2 weeks from now, what 3 weeks from now, a Sunday night football, Dallas week,
Mm.
and all. I can only imagine because it's likely going to be crazy.
So you think the Eagles? Would you give them a better than 50-50 chance to get the number one seed at this point?
Yeah, I would say so. I say so. I mean, it's early, but I would say, listen, what is Vegas telling us? They're the odds-on favorite to just come out of the NFC. So, I, if Vegas is saying it, I'll go with that for now.
I like it. I like
that
it.
that's kind of like my lifeline, man.
Photo
Vegas is
Fred.
backing me.
Photo Fred.
Oh yeah.
Vegas.
I
Vegas.
don't,
What you say?
I don't gamble like that or put money on it like that, but Vegas is my
Yeah.
millionaire lifeline.
So we don't have Vegas betting lines yet for week 4, but we got a bunch of good games. I mean, other than what they've decided, this slop that they've decided to put here on the Monday Night Football. Once again, for the listeners, if you listen back, you don't need to go watch it. Just
Yeah, we
Google.
need to apologize for you.
Yes, this is awful. Um, Nobody should be subjected to this, but listen, check out the show. So the Vegas lines are not out yet. We got a bunch of good games. We got Dolphins at Bengals on Thursday Night Football. Just pick these straight up, OJ. Who you going with in that one?
um, I'm leaning towards the Dolphins, even though it's in Cincinnati. Cincinnati needs to get a win and everything. They struggled so far. But I do think it's dependent on Tua's health. We don't know if it's his back. We don't know if it's his concussion. I think they had recently reported that he's not under concussion protocol. But I think if he's healthy, I'll go with the Dolphins in that one.
Um, let's see. I got to go with you on that. I just think I don't know what's going on with the Bengals. I don't. I think it's a major
Well,
Super
that,
Bowl
the
hangover.
offensive line, for one, you would think they would have, shored that up from the Super Bowl if that was, any indication. But I mean, listen, when you lose a Super Bowl, it's hard to come back. It's hard to return. You people talk about Super Bowl hangover with the winners. There's even more so Super Bowl hangover with the runner-up. So
And I would say I've been on the train. Keep Andre Dillard. Do whatever you ever got to do. It's great to have a backup left tackle, especially it's the most important position in football. But asterisk, Bengals, come call in, bring your first round pick. We'll take it. You get a left tackle, maybe your left tackle of the future. He's a good player. No, we're not scamming you here. And he might sign back with y'all because really the reason why he's not going to be back in Philly is because he's a backup. He's going to play backup in Philly. And he could go and join a team that was just in the Super Bowl. I think it's a good all around, but short of a first rounder and maybe a second and a sixth or something like that. I think he stays in Philly, but Andre Dillard would be a good pickup for them.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I doubt seriously if they could pull off a one. I mean, if Howie could pull that off, I mean, even more probably, he should run for governor next month, but Pennsylvania governor next month. But um, you know, I I think they could definitely get them moving for a second because it all depends how desperate Cincinnati is. But I mean, if it's at least for a second, I would move Dillard.
It's a good all around pick, and I'm just being an honest sports fan here. The Eagles would then have to make a move at left tackle because again, backup left tackle is a very important position. So, but Stoutland makes it work with he could probably get you and me up to speed by the bye week. So
So look at Malata. That's a perfect example there. I mean, he has the size and the strength and everything, but I mean, we know rugby is a man's game, but American football is a little different too. So
While we're on Eagles offensive line, before we get back to some of these picks, I mean, let's say Sayamalu doesn't hold up because in the past he's had some injury concerns. Jack Driscoll, Landon Dickerson. Would it be Jack Driscoll really that we would need to depend on at one of those backup guard spots, or is there somebody I'm missing?
yeah, I think probably Jack Driscoll because I mean he's been a versatile player. He's another guy that you notice in camp, and he's always seems to be ready, and he always seems to step in when needed and all. So hopefully we don't see any of that happen. Hopefully Sayamalu stays healthy
Yep.
and plays well and everything. But between him, Dickerson, those guys can't stay healthy. I think Driscoll could step right in and they won't miss much of a beat.
So Commanders get another division rival. They get the Cowboys on Sunday in Jerry World, which is, I mean, that's their Super Bowl. So it'd be people running for the exits. I talked earlier about Carson potentially getting himself benched. He throws another stinker out there in Jerry World, and I don't know who they have backing him up, but
I think
they
it's
might
still
be called.
Heineke. Yeah, I
Oh,
think it's still Heineke.
Heineke.
Heineke,
Heineke
sorry.
came close to
Yeah,
beating Brady. I mean, that's
right. So, I try not to think about it. Said, Carson's still making a good amount of money. Um, so, it's still a lot invested, taking on his salary. But when you think about Washington, there would be what 1-3 if they lose to Dallas next week, and it's. I guess it is possible, but you got to go with Dallas, despite what may happen, with the Monday night game. You got to give Dallas the edge, just from being at home.
because
Being
Micah
at
Parsons.
FedEx and everything, anything could happen, but you would think that the Dallas defense would kind of feast on Wentz as well.
It's in Dallas. The game's in Dallas, so
Yeah,
uh,
so you would kind of think that they would feast on they would feast on Wentz between Parsons, Diggs, all those guys, Lawrence, all those guys.
I'm going Cowboys 19, Commanders 11. Another
Yeah,
ugly, weird score,
probably
but
probably an ugly one. Even if Dak does try to be crazy enough to come back next week.
I don't know what I don't know what the thought process is there because we saw Russell Wilson try to do this
he
last
probably he
season.
probably feels a little insecure. There's probably a little insecurity there, even though he's paid and all, and Jerry Jones saying one too many things on camera, on audio, and everything. He probably feels a little pressure to get back. You know, we, when you talk about the injury to Herbert, they were blown out. In Jacksonville on Sunday, this past Sunday. You talk about Jameis Winston the week before. Listen, man, athletes are under a tremendous pressure to perform, get on the field. I mean, they have pressure from all directions, whether it's the team, whether it's their representation, whether it's family, all those things. These guys are under an immense amount of pressure to play and perform every week
He needs to
and get
talk
on
to
the field.
Kawhi Leonard. He gotta whoever Kawhi Leonard has got counseling him has him not worried at all. He's like, I'll play
Well,
what I want to
it is
play.
it is a little different with basketball and baseball and everything because you have a fully guaranteed contract. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, if I don't want to say if anybody has kind of, I know it's extreme, but if anybody's kind of earned a mulligan a little bit, it might be Kawhi. But you do want to see the best players perform because I mean it is entertainment. People pay for season tickets and all, so you kind of want to balance that out and see that. But when Kawhi plays, he's a
Oh yeah.
he's a beast. But I get what you say.
It's just his mentality. He's like, I don't care, and
he
I'll
is the
switch
most
teams.
he is the most matter of fact athlete I've probably ever seen. Modern athlete I've probably ever seen. Just matter of fact, just deliberate everything. But I mean, it translates on the court, and he's just an assassin too.
He
So
is.
it's the give and take there.
It's amazing. He's had an amazing career. It's just fascinating. He has taken a different path than anybody would have counseled him on. He just has been his own man in an interesting way, whether you like it or not. But the Bills, the Bills are at the Ravens at 1:00. I feel like that is probably going to be candidate for one of the most exciting football games all season. Bills offensive coordinator still slamming the papers, punching walls.
Want to see
Uh,
a manager. Ken Dorsey, from the U, old Miami quarterback. Well, man, I think this has the capability of being a shootout. And from a Bill standpoint, with their injuries, I mean, just losing Hyde and oh gosh, who's the other guy? I think both their safeties. Is it Poyer
First,
or
yes, Poyer, I think.
yes? So yeah, so Bills are just decimated in their secondary, and Josh Allen, he can put up big numbers and everything. He's probably gonna have to ball out for the next few weeks until they figure out what they're going to do defensively. Because I mean, you saw some, um, you saw the holes that those guys left in Buffalo's defense. So they're going to have to try to shoot it out with Lamar, and that could easily happen because on the Ravens side, because they're not a defensive juggernaut either. So listen. Um, Between Lamar and Josh, they might both go for 400 yards in offense.
It's a
But
must
I'll take the
see.
Ravens because they're at home. So I'll take the Ravens. This could be sort of like a home and home thing. Whoever has a home field in that game, but I give the Ravens the edge.
I Early. I'm not going. This is. I all the rest of these. I'm gonna say. I'm willing to say it's my take. Right now, I'm leaning towards the Bills. Leaning towards the Bills slightly on that one. What about the Chiefs and the Bucks? Chiefs are at the Bucks. Sunday night football.
Whew, this is going to be a doozy, and I anticipate this to be everything. Well, the Bills and Ravens too, but I anticipate these two games to be as good as advertised. They better be. But you had the Chiefs coming off a disappointing loss in Indy. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Bieniemy um, and Mahomes going at it and everything. I'm not going to make a big deal out of that because coaches and players they don't see eye to eye all the time. That just happen to be on camera and in the heat of the moment in the game and everything. I expect the Chiefs to bounce back, but also Tampa Bay is getting Mike Evans back from suspension. So I don't see. Oof. So this is the more we talk about this bet, the more tough this pick is for me because you're looking at either team possibly on a two-game losing streak. So um, this is also a back-to-back game for Kansas City on the road. So I'm going to say the Bucks, but I'm not all that confident.
I'm thinking score prediction from me on this one. I'm going 38 Chiefs, 27 Bucks. I just don't think for the reasons you raised earlier is just I just don't know who they're going to be able to bring to the game and how well if they're going to hold up throughout. Like Godwin, unbelievable. Is he going to suit up? Mike Evans going to have a lot to prove, but had the connection with Cameron Brate is nothing like what Tom Brady had with Gronk.
Oh
And
yeah,
so
sure.
it's
But
not comparable.
but you look at it from a defensive standpoint. Tampa Bay, their defense is pretty much excellent so far this season. So that's a big factor too. That's kind of why I give them the edge.
Okay.
They know how to play the Chiefs. They know how to play Mahomes. Ty Bowles is still a defensive mastermind. Just by them, you got to also remember Green Bay only scored what 14 points, on Sunday against Tampa Bay. So Chiefs can do a lot more offensively. I get that, but I still get a Bucks the edge.
Okay. Uh, and for the by the way, the tracking as we go here, the Giants are now up, so they may pull away on this terrible Monday night football game. But next Monday night, you have a really good game. You got the Rams at the Niners. Really classic NFC West matchup. Who you leaning towards in that one, OJ?
I think I like the Rams in that one. I don't. I just don't. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo's just his overall record. I mean, the guy wins. So, he's a winning quarterback, but he just nothing ever impresses me about him for some reason. I mean, it's baffling to me, and you can. It just seems like that the 49ers can win with him, but not because of him.
Yep.
And I think the Rams, they got back on the winning track against Arizona because it seems you don't know what Arizona team that you're going to get every week it seems, but I think the Rams will go in there and get that win and probably win it rather easily.
Does the idea that the Buccaneers game may be at a neutral field on Sunday, back to the Bucks Chiefs game, with the hurricane coming through there, that game may be moved to a neutral site. Does that change your thoughts at all, or is that still kind of it's a nail biter?
I think as long as it's still in Florida, it doesn't change for me. But if they have to move a little bit, that might change the dynamic because they would be out of their element and all. But I think I still anticipated being in Tampa, but I still like the Bucks either way.
Okay. What about Doug Peterson, his return to Lincoln Financial Field? Uh, you think that's going to go be a good return for him?
But yeah, I think it'll be. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a competitive game, pretty much all the way through. But with what you see what the Eagles are doing, you got to give them the edge, and I think that they will do enough defensively to try to confuse Trevor Lawrence and maybe force him into a couple turnovers, making him uncomfortable. If there's one thing that you want to be concerned about is Jacksonville's defense. That's been their bread and butter so far. That's why they're 2-1, not necessarily because their offense. I don't think, but Doug will have his guys ready. And I know the Eagles will be ready because they're not satisfied with what they've done so far, and they're not reading their headlines. Hopefully not this week either. But I just think the Eagles will come out on top. It may not be as crisp or smooth as we've seen in past weeks, but I think the Eagles is a better team, and I think they will still prevail.
Yeah, on board with everything you were saying. I think they win by, I think it's like a weird score. It's like 25-19, 25-18, something like that. But I think the Jaguars are within striking distance all Sunday. I don't think you'll see any kind of pull away happen. I think, there are going to be some key plays there. But I think at the end of the day, they just don't have the horses to keep up. And I think that'll be the difference.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Um, so in order for that to happen, who do you think would need to be the offensive X factor of the game?
Well, it's funny you say that because you look at all three games so far: Detroit, Minnesota, Washington, all have pretty decent defensive coordinators, defensive personnel, and they've thrown all types of things at Jalen Hurts. Um, Detroit wanted to blitz Jalen. He prevailed with his legs. You look at Minnesota, they didn't try to blitz, they tried to play his own, and Jalen ate that up.
Big
And
time.
then, right, and then Washington just didn't want to allow, Jalen to get out of the pocket. They didn't allow him to run as much. And, we saw, probably even a better outing than he did in Minnesota. And, he just went over the top with those guys every chance that he could. And it was just amazing to see. So you kind of wonder what Jacksonville's going to try to throw out because, are they going to try to do something in between? Because we've seen the extreme one way or the other with the previous three opponents. So
Hmm.
I think what the Eagles probably want to try to do is try to be a little more balanced and try to establish the run. They did so early against Washington. But I just think the first couple of series it kind of dictate how the game goes. But, you know, they're a passing team right now. So I pretty much expect them to try to keep that going. And even though, let's just say, Jacksonville takes away the deep ball, you still got A.J. Brown over the middle. You still got Dallas Goedert over the middle. And we've seen within these last couple of weeks, Devontae Smith, going over the middle a little bit, doing a little couple slants and, circling from the outside and everything. So I think that's probably what they'll go to if Jacksonville tries to, throw different things at them because Eagles have weapons now, man, and who do you can't cover everybody. So, and even if you do, we saw the spectacular catches that both Smith and Brown has made over the last couple of weeks. So, pick your poison. It's almost to the point where you're picking your poison when you play the Eagles.
It
So,
is. It is. I'm of the opinion now, from what I've seen, at least in the modern era, the midnight green era, this is the best receiving core that the Eagles have had that I've ever seen. And you're not just talking about the top two; you're talking about 3, 4 because Pascal can kill you, Quez Watkins can kill you. The Eagles have never had this in my opinion. But before the midnight green era, are there any others that you would really say are even in the conversation?
not really. It was always either one good or great receiver, or they were none. They were either just average or mediocre and everything. You just say, well, I will say you could probably rival Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin. But when you look at how, I mean, they were both kind of young at the time.
Yep.
But if you look at Devontae Smith, um, you look at you look at Brown, these guys are young and they're signed for years. They'll be here for years.
Hmm.
You got Smith on another 3 years on a rookie contract. You got Brown, who's here for at least another 3 years, I think, with his extension.
Yep.
So, I mean, what are we saying? The sky's the limit, but these guys are young and they're going to be here for a while. So that's kind of scary when you think about it. Scary
It
for the league, that is.
it is scary for the league. What about on the defensive side, OJ? Who do you think that the Eagles are counting on or should count on for a big play, a big game on Sunday?
I think you just have to. They have to keep on utilizing Reddick, and excuse me, keep on utilizing him. We see how effective he can be, as he has been since he's been in the league, as far as pass rush, causing havoc, not getting a sack, forcing a fumble, different things of that nature, and also you just let him eat. And um, one of the things that hasn't also been talked about as much is what Jordan Davis is doing, taking on a number of blockers. Reason why we saw Fletcher Cox going free, Brandon Graham
Hmm.
going free, getting the one-on-ones and beating their man is, they're getting a good interior push from Jordan Davis. Also throwing Javon Hargrave as well. So that's another X factor. But I think if Gannon still just allows Reddick to attack the quarterback and just wreak havoc in the backfield period and everything, that's going to be um, good recipe for success.
I really liked, yes, to your point, I really liked how, and if he wasn't, if because Reddick was dropping back, not dropping back, he was rushing the passer, he was going to get gas. They were working in 48, Patrick Johnson to play that same kind of
Oh
joker
yeah, he had
position.
some pretty good. Yeah, he played some good snaps, Johnson. Yeah,
He
yeah,
did.
he's almost like a forgotten man on this defense, along with White. But these guys are playing well, man. And like they said, we have receivers. You can say now you have linebackers
It's ridiculous.
and edge guys. So it's kind of weird
It
and wild when
is.
you think about it. It's like, okay, it's almost like um, you finally get to afford
Right.
a luxury car, or you get to stay
Hmm.
in a luxury hotel, and you step in.
Right.
It's like, oh man, is this really our room, or is this,
Right. Right.
you always feel like you're stealing it.
Right. Like like, my car didn't break down on the way to my destination. Is everything okay? Like
Yeah, or like almost drives itself. So yeah, and you
everything
got the
we good?
warranty and everything, and anything slightest thing, you just take to the dealer, and it's all covered. So I mean, this is a this is a new day, if you're an Eagles fan. And I had said earlier today, I tweeted earlier that, and this is just really kind of focused on Jalen Hurts, but I just pretty much said that, just sit back, and enjoy the fun, enjoy the growth, enjoy the maturation, and enjoy the talent. And we had talked about Howie in the past and everything. Like I said, man, I mean, he could probably run for office next month, and he'll at least get a lot of votes and not get elected. So I
No
mean,
kidding.
it. Listen, the 180 that has been from before the draft, where it's like fire Howie, it's like he's back to Super Bowl mode, man. So what he's done is just ingenuous, in my opinion.
I mean, if rewinding really quick back to our conversation about that Sunday night football game in a couple weeks against the Cowboys, he
Right.
win if they get there and they're 6-0, they go into bye week, Halloween 6-0, Pittsburgh. They might elect him instead of Fetterman or Oz next.
You might be right, man. And listen, I don't even know if we could even um, temper the city if they go 6-0 in a bye. Yeah, the Super Bowl talk will really, really rev up if they go 6-0 by the bye. I'm trying to think about this and anticipate this. It's going to be a crazy week off, man.
Wow. Well, they'll be able to follow along with you because you're always keeping up with stuff. When a lot of us are sleeping and where a lot of us are doing other stuff, you've been working this for decades. Tell the people
Thank
what you're
you.
working on now and where we can follow along.
Yeah, so you can always find my stuff in the Tribune. Working on a couple of stories this week. And you can always revert back to the big Eagles preview that we did to start the season. That's still on phillytrib.com. The whole football is back with the Eagles. Feature that I did on Jalen Hurts, also Hassan Reddick and everything. You can just revert back to those things, and you can just kind of put the pieces together to what's happening now with this 3-0 team. So that's kind of what I didn't anticipate 3-0 necessarily, but I was trying to put the picture together to try to get a anticipation of what the season will be like. So you guys can check that out on phillytrib.com, and also you can always find me on Twitter at OJ Philly as well. Also have a Facebook page where I do stack all my articles. You can just go to OJ Spivey -journalist.
Do that, y'all. And of course, you can find me on Twitter. It's Mention Pod. If you want to follow along personally, that's a mix of not just sports stuff. It's all kinds of stuff. It's POLITIDOPE. And over on Instagram, it's honorable mention _podcast. Thank y'all so much for listening, continuing to show support. Go listen to the other episodes of OJ. He's always dropping gems. Got to talk to him about, activism. We got to talk to him about the history of the black quarterback in Philly, which is an underwritten, undercovered
Part of the
aspect.
story and on phillytrip.com as well. So yeah.
I'm going right now. You should too. Thank you so much, OJ.
All right, thanks a lot, man.